How do you start a money lending business without needing $5 million from your dad and calling yourself self-made, okay? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you guys step by step how to create it, but also talk about the entire startup costs, expenses, and profits. And no, I'm not talking about Lenders Club or Promise You This. I'm talking about how to make your own from scratch. Like, you yourself lend money to other people, and at what legal rates, how do you get the money back, and all that fancy stuff. So I'm not talking about like, hey, give your money to somebody else and they'll do it for you. No, I'm talking about how to do it by yourself without needing a bunch of money. By the way, you need like $1,000 and no big deal, okay? So by the way, you can actually do it with like $500 to be honest with you, okay? Now, if you guys don't know me, my name is TommyBryson. I'm an accountant. I post videos on YouTube every single day. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you get notified. On top of that, hit the like button. Really appreciate it. And here's a question for you guys, okay? How much money do you currently have, and how much money do you think it actually takes to start this business? Comment down below, let me know, and I'm almost guaranteeing it, I'm betting 1 penny here that you will get this answer wrong. You might think you need $1,000, $10,000, $500, but in reality, the starting cost of this business is much lower depending on where you are and how you want to do it. So stick around so you find out how to get started with basically no money whatsoever. Now, before I get started, I do want to break down one thing here, and it's that there are legal ways and illegal ways to do this business like everything else in life, okay? So for example, the legal way is you get your permits, your licenses, and a team, so you can do everything efficiently and charge the legal rates. Now, the illegal way is that you do whatever you want, you don't pay any taxes, and whenever people don't pay you, well, you go out there at night with a hoodie on at the bar, and you start breaking some kneecaps on the weekends, okay? Kind of like in the 70s, okay? But the main point is, in this video, I'm going to show you the most efficient and legal way to lend money out and actually make a ton of money every single week, every single month, however you want to do it, okay? So here we go, guys. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, guys, here is actually, well, Tommy, what is the startup cost to actually starting this business? How much money do I need and all this fancy stuff? Well, the answer is this, okay? To start the business, you can start it with $0 depending on what you're doing. I'm going to show you guys later on in the video. But if you want to start it officially, make a whole business out of it and make real money, I'm going to show you that right now, okay? Now, the first thing is this. You 100% need a team of people to help you run the business, but not internally, but kind of like externally. So for example, you need an accountant to run your taxes, a lawyer so you can sue people, write the contracts and all that fancy stuff, and you also need a compliance officer to make sure you are following all the laws and following all the rules in your state, okay? Those are the 3 people you actually need on your team, okay? Once you have those people, you want to form an LLC. You want to have your license set up for your entire like lending money business. On top of that, guys, you also want a domain, and you also want a marketing tactic to actually acquire new customers. I'm going to show you how to do this all later on in the video. But for right now, the highest costs here are basically the lawyers, the accountants, and also the compliance officers. But once you have that covered, well, all you really need is to have money to actually start lending out, okay? Now, I recommend anywhere between $10,000 to $20,000, but if you don't have a lot of money, you can start with $1,000 and just start with 1 client and just go from there and keep growing your business over time, okay? But guys, officially, I want to say this right here, okay? The lawyers and accountants can charge you anywhere between $1,000 to $10,000 every single month. So you want to make sure you're hiring people that A, know what they're doing, and 2, are not trying to swindle you out of all your money. So for example, I pay $1,000 a year for an accountant, and I pay like for a lawyer, like depending on what I want them to do, a fixed fee per what I want them to do right then and there. So for example, a contract would be like maybe like $1,000 or $500 depending on the contract. And if, by the way, usually I just go on Google and Google templates, and that's how I get the contracts done, okay? And I just like have them look over it, and I'm ready to go. I don't pay anyone for like crazy things that I don't need to pay them for. On top of that, the compliance officer can charge you anywhere between $850 an hour to $85 an hour, depending on what you want them to do and who they actually are. So just make sure you get the most efficient people out there that don't charge you a bunch of money. So again, you can start with $1,000, or you can start with like $10,000, $20,000, okay? There you go. Now, when it comes to expenses, basically, Tommy, how much do I have to pay every month recurring to keep this business going, okay? Great question. And the answer is this. Well, your highest costs are going to be your lawyers, accountants, and also compliance officer. But these are going to be your greatest assets because these people keep you in business and make sure you don't get sued or make sure you don't go to jail for breaking the law. Okay, so this is a necessary expense of maybe like $1,000 to $3,000 depending on who you're actually hiring every single month. On top of that, you also have the entire expense of, hey, people don't pay, they go on default, you have to cover that also. If someone is going on collections, you have to cover that cost also, where you are actually collecting the money and hiring a company to collect the money from them. On top of that, you also have your office space, which is not necessary whatsoever. You can just collect the money yourself, but if you want an office space, you can do that if you want to. You can just do it online, like in the 20th century that we actually are today, okay? You don't need a physical store anymore. You can just do it from your home and do it from a domain and a website, okay? On top of that, you can actually hire employees, but in the beginning, you don't need any of these people. You can just do it yourself for the first like few years, and then you can start like, you know, hiring someone, a secretary, to find you leads or whatever, and like hire people to actually do the entire process for you. But for the first few years, you don't need anyone whatsoever, okay? Just to clarify that. So in total, your expenses can be zero and just your team. And on top of that, it can be like zero without the team. But if you get sued, then you're kind of like screwed, okay? So there you go. On top of that, you probably wondering, okay, Tommy, I get it. I have the startup cost, maybe like $10,000, $20,000, maybe zero if I want to make it like happen like crazy. And for expenses, maybe like zero if I want to be crazy risky, or like, you know, like $3,000 every single month, okay? But what about my profits? How much money can I make from this business? The answer is this. Very simple. You can make a lot of money, but it's all about volume and quantity and quality of clients. So for example, say you have 50 clients and each of them have $1,000, right? Basically they have $50,000 in total, and you charge them 60% because it's legal rates in New York City, and you will make in total every single month around $666, okay? But if you have more clients and you have a higher amount of money and you charge them the same amount of interest, well, you make more money obviously every single month. But on top of that, here's the trick, guys, okay? The name of the game is volume, meaning you get more customers, meaning you get more money. But for example, imagine you tell them, hey, you know, I'll lend you $500, but if you don't pay me back, I'll take your phone that costs like $1,000. Well, now you're making a lot more money, but it's based on leverage and based on security. So you can make money from interest and also from defaulting clients that have something for guarantee, like a phone, like a house, like a car. It all depends on your market and how much money you actually lend on, okay? No one's gonna let you be like, hey, I'll give you $1,000 and your house is the collateral. No, that's not gonna happen. The collateral, by the way, is if you default on the loan, you don't pay it, then I take something else, okay? That's how it works. So now that we know how much it takes to start, the expenses and the profits, I wanna get into a step-by-step guide to actually get started today in this business, okay? Now the first thing is this, guys. It's something called grunt work. The hard work just to get started in the business, okay? Now the first thing is this. You want to have your lawyer, your accountant, and your compliance officer ready, and that way you have everything set up, okay? Like your LLC, you also have your entire licenses, and once you have that set up, it's great. But now you also need to understand how to collect money from people. It's not as simple as going to somebody's house and be like, hey, give me my money, give me my money. No, you have to know exactly how to do it, because if you harass people, that's illegal. If you bother people, that's illegal. So you need to make sure you do everything correctly, and you're not out there trying to break people's kneecaps, okay? Don't do that. It's illegal also. So there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and the best way to do it is by learning how to collect money based on your state, okay? On top of that, you also want to create a contract basically to show people like, hey, if you borrow a penny from me and you don't pay me back, well, I'm going to take this away from you. Or if you borrow a penny from me, you have to pay me a penny and a half every other month or something like that, okay? You want to have a contract that shows you exactly what your terms are, and that way everything is clear and solid. That's why I ask you guys to get a lawyer and don't do this on your own. But if you want a template online, you can search it up, no problem. On top of that, you also want to have a criteria. Basically means that who are you going to accept for a loan? So for example, if my name is Tommy and I come to you and I say like, hey, I want a loan, and you ask me like, hey, are you employed? No, I don't have a job. I'm unemployed. I don't have any money. I don't have a car. I don't have anything. Well, you say like, hey, what about your credit score? Well, my credit score is 300 or 500. No, I'm not lending to you. But if I'm Tommy's mom and I come to you and say, hey, you know, I need a loan. My name is Tommy's mom, and I have $10,000 in the bank, and I also have a car, I have a house, I can use that as leverage, and I also have a job, I have all this stuff, and I say, hey, what's your credit score? Well, you know, 700. Okay, great, awesome, clap, clap, you're in. Here's $1,000, you know. That's how you do it. You need a criteria to know who you're going to lend to and who you're not going to lend to, okay? Hope that makes sense. On top of that, you also want to create a customer generating process. So for example, you can do door-to-door where you go to people's houses and you be like, hey, I have this offer, blah, blah, blah. Or you can do marketing through online ads and stuff like that. You can also do YouTube to get people to actually register, believe it or not. On top of that, you can even do referrals where you have people make websites for you, and whenever they refer someone to you, well, you pay them a fee, and that way you get a constant stream of customers. Again, if you want to go mouth to mouth organic, that's fine also, but it takes a lot more work. And on top of that, it's not really like, like stable. So you want to have like paid advertising also. I would recommend like, both and both. So that way you have, mouth to mouth, but you also have business coming in from ads that are more like, like coming in more consistently. Again, it's not mouth to mouth, it's word of mouth. Just to clarify that, okay? On top of that, guys, you also want to understand the type of loans you want to do. So for example, do you want to do secure loans or unsecured loans? So for example, if I have a phone here and I want to lend it to you, and I want to say like, hey, I need $1,000, and I say like, hey, give me your phone, and that's like leverage. Well, that's called a secure loan because it's backed up by something else. Now, an unsecured loan would be like, hey, here's $500 or like a penny, and you just pay me back on goodwill. If you don't pay me back, I'll sue you. But there's nothing backing up the loan, basically. Okay, so that's what it is: secured, unsecured. What do you want to do? Okay, most of the time, secured is great, but a lot of people out there don't have security, and that's the problem. But secure loan, you get the money back ASAP, more security for you, but it kind of limits you on the market you can actually lend to in that sense, okay? On top of that, guys, you want to make sure you understand your markets by knowing how much money you have, okay? So, for example, if you want to lend to an ordinary person, then you understand that you might need like $1,000 to $10,000. But if you want to lend to a business or like a real estate agent, then you might need a lot more than $1,000 or like $10,000, okay? Just to clarify that. So, there you go. Those are all the steps to follow so you start this business. So you need your officers, you need your people, your team, you also need your licenses, and you need to know how much you're gonna lend to and all that fancy stuff, okay? Now, for example, here are some simple questions that I know you guys have already, and it's basically, Tommy, what if people don't pay me? Well, that's why I told you to get a lawyer. So when you get a lawyer, you can actually get a court order saying like, hey, this guy borrowed money from me, he hasn't paid me. You can actually garnish his wages by going into his bank account, this is legal by the way, and taking money from his check before he even gets paid. That's what you can actually do. Take the money from his check or his bank account. It is legal, okay? On top of that, you can send them to collections and ruin their credit score, which is another option also. On top of it, you probably ask me, Tommy, how much interest do I charge? The answer is it depends on your state. It's not dependent on how much you want to charge. For example, in New York City, you can charge 60% up to 25%, but then that becomes illegal. So it all depends, but there are legal ways to charge a lot more money. You just have to talk to your lawyer about it, okay? So in your state, there's a rate. So search up on Google, what is my legal interest rate to charge someone for lending money to in my states, like Florida, okay? That way you find out exactly what it is. In your state, it's 16%. On top of that, you probably ask me, well, Tommy, how do I check somebody's credit to make sure they're credit worthy? Well, you can actually pull their credit from credit union, Equifax, whatever it is. But the main thing is this: you never want to have them pull their own credit and then give you a paper saying they pull their credit and show you everything, because sometimes they can take that credit score and Photoshop the entire thing and show you something that's not real. So you always want to make sure you pull their credit yourself, even though it might cost you like $10, $15, but you want to make sure you do it yourself to qualify the person, okay? Don't wait on them to do it. You do it yourself, okay? So if you made it this far into the video, I can tell you're serious. So here's some tips to follow so you make sure you start running, but also stay running in this business, okay? The first thing is this, okay? You want to stay local. That way you control your local area first and learn how to do everything in your local area, so you don't have to worry about like, hey, this guy's in Florida, he owes me money, like what do I do? What's the law over there? Okay, you want to stay local within your state, and that way you kind of like, learn the entire ropes before you start expanding. On top of that, you want to make sure you don't charge any crazy fees like origination fees, commission fee, prepayment fees, interest fees, like all this stuff that doesn't make any sense. Don't do it. It kind of sucks. I recommend just charging a late fee, because in that way people want to pay you back like ASAP, but they don't really care about like, oh, it's a prepayment fee, there's this, there's that. No, just charge people a late fee. That's fine right there. You also want to pick your target audience based on how much money you actually have to lend. So for example, $10,000 is like, lower income people or like middle class people, and then you have like $100,000, which is like basically like, hey, this guy wants to flip a property or buy a property. That's like for that type of stuff, okay? It's completely different. On top of that, you want to be 1000% transparent with people. Don't try to fool people. People are not stupid. They won't fall for your stuff for so long. So just be honest, be legal, and make sure you're not doing anything wrong. Now, number 5 is you want to start building a reputation with other lenders, and that way you start building rapport and goodwill. So for example, if I had a client call me and say like, hey, I live in Florida, can you lend me money? I say like, hey, no, I only lend to people in New York. but I have a guy in Florida, here's the guy's number, and you refer them to him, and then that's it. You know, you build goodwill. Don't charge people money to do that. Just build goodwill, and when that person gets someone, they'll refer them to you also. Now, number 6 is, guys, you want to make sure whatever you're using as collateral for your loan, you want to make sure that asset is insured by something, okay? So, for example, if I tell you I'll lend you a penny, and if you don't pay me back, I'll take your phone, right? But what if when the time is like ready to actually pay, you don't have the money, you don't have the penny, but now your phone is cracked and demolished, okay? Like, what do I do then? Well, the answer is nothing, because you're kind of screwed. But if you told me in the beginning, like, hey, if your phone is insured, great, then I'll take the phone from you and it's covered by like screen protection and like house protection or anything out there. Well, now you know that anything that happens to the phone doesn't matter because it's insured, and you can get the phone back and fixed ASAP, no problem. So just make sure the assets are insured. That way you're more secured about the loans you're actually doing. Now, last but not least here, guys, is that you want to make sure if you lend to a business or someone that owns a business, you want to make sure you have them sign a good guy guarantee. Meaning that if they can't pay you because your business went out of business, well, it doesn't matter to you because you're still going to collect that money from them. Because a lot of people say like, hey, it's an LLC, you can't sue me. But if you have them sign a good guy guarantee, then you're completely good to go. Because if they don't pay you, well, you can still sue them, the person, without having to worry about the LLC protection thing, okay? So that's what I would do again. Again, it's called a good guy guarantee. Ask your lawyer about it if you're going to start this business. And guys, as always, there's always a loophole to everything. So if you want to do everything I just told you, great. But if you can't afford to, that's fine also. You can do something called a promissory note, which is basically a document or contract that says you owe me this much money and you promise to pay me this much interest. Now, if you don't pay me back, I can take you to court or take the assets that you use as collateral, whether it's a phone, a car, or a house, okay? Now, the main thing is this. There are limits to it because you can't do a promissory note for more than $25,000, okay? You can't do one for more than $25,000, so you want to make sure you are in compliance by at least checking in with a lawyer or checking on Google and making sure everything you're actually doing is correct. And guys, as always, enjoy the video, hit the like button, really appreciate it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you get notified. On top of that, if you have any questions, just DM me on Instagram at TommyBryson. And before I go, if you want to watch more business plans, click this link right here for all the business plans I've actually done so far. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit my face right here. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and peace.